സമ്മേളനമാണ്. ഇത് 3ാമത്തെ വർഷമാണ്. ഇത് ഫ്രണ്ട്സ് ഓഫ് TK എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞൊരു സംഘടന ഇവിടെ കൊച്ചിയിൽ വെച്ച് നടത്തുന്നത്. TK ജനിച്ചതും വളർന്നതും 1986 വരെ കൊച്ചിയിലാണ്. ഈ ബിൽഡിംഗ് ഇരിക്കുന്ന സ്ഥലം ഇത് പണ്ട് കേരള ഫൈൻ ആർട്സ് സൊസൈറ്റിയുടെ ഒരു ഓലപ്പുരയായിരുന്നു. അപ്പം അവിടെ 1955 TK ഞാനും കൂടി വലിയ പ്രസിദ്ധനായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് കവി സ്റ്റീഫൻ സ്പെൻഡർ മറ്റു കൊച്ചിയിൽ വന്നപ്പോൾ ഞങ്ങൾ ഒരുമിച്ച് ഈ ബിൽഡിംഗ് ഇരിക്കുന്ന സ്ഥലത്ത് വരികയുണ്ടായി. അങ്ങനെ എറണാകുളത്തുമായിട്ട് ചുറ്റിപ്പറ്റി TKക്ക് വളരെയധികം ഓർമ്മകളുണ്ട്. അത്തരത്തിലുള്ള ഒരു 7 സുഹൃത്തുക്കൾ ആണ് ഈ ഫ്രണ്ട്സ് ഓഫ് TK എന്ന സംഘടനയല്ല, ഒരു ഇൻഫോർമൽ ഗ്രൂപ്പ് ആരംഭിച്ചത്. ഈ 2 പേര് ശ്രീ കൃഷ്ണൻകുട്ടി ഞാനും TK 1ാം ക്ലാസ് മുതൽക്ക് ഒരുമിച്ച് പഠിച്ചാണ്. അതിനുശേഷം കൃഷ്ണൻകുട്ടി ചാർട്ടേഡ് അക്കൗണ്ടൻ്റായി. കഴിഞ്ഞ വർഷം ഒക്ടോബർ 5-ാം തീയതി ശ്രീകൃഷ്ണൻകുട്ടി നമ്മളെ വിട്ടുപിരിഞ്ഞു. അത് കഴിഞ്ഞ് 1.5 മാസം കഴിഞ്ഞപ്പോൾ ഡോക്ടർ പട്ടാമ്പി നാരായണൻ, അദ്ദേഹം ഇന്ത്യൻ ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂട്ട് ഓഫ് സയൻസിന് കെമിസ്ട്രി ബിരുദം നേടിയിട്ട് പട്ടാമ്പി കോളേജിൽ പഠിപ്പിക്കുകയായിരുന്നു. രസതന്ത്രത്തിൻ്റെ പ്രൊഫസറായിട്ട് അദ്ദേഹം ഒക്ടോബർ മാസത്തിൽ. ഈ 2 പേരും അജീവനാന്തം മതനിരപേക്ഷ മൂല്യങ്ങൾക്കും വളരെ പുരോഗമനാത്മകമായ ആശയങ്ങൾക്കും വേണ്ടി നിലകൊണ്ടവരാണ്. ഇതിൽ കൃഷ്ണൻകുട്ടിയുടെയും നാരായണൻ്റെയും വലിയ ഒരു പ്രേരണയിലാണ് ഇത്തരത്തിലുള്ള ഒരു ലെക്ചർ സീരീസ് എറണാകുളത്ത് തുടങ്ങിയത്. ഒരു നിമിഷം, ഒരു മിനിറ്റ് ഈ 2 പേർക്ക് വേണ്ടി നിശബ്ദത അനുഷ്ഠിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി എഴുന്നേറ്റ് നിൽക്കണം. കൃഷ്ണൻകുട്ടി പട്ടാമ്പി നാരായണൻ. മെമ്മോറിയൽ ലെക്ചറിൻ്റെ ഫോർമാറ്റ് ഇങ്ങനെയാണ്. ഒരു ചെറിയ ഒരു ഇൻട്രഡക്ഷന് ശേഷം പ്രഭാഷകൻ, ഇത്തവണ ശ്രീ TM കൃഷ്ണ, അദ്ദേഹം പ്രസംഗിക്കും. അതിനുശേഷം നമ്മൾ പിരിഞ്ഞു പോകും. ഇതിനു മുമ്പ് നന്ദി പ്രകടനമോ താങ്ക്സോ വെൽക്കം സ്പീച്ചോ ഒന്നുമില്ല. വെറും പ്രസംഗത്തിൽ മാത്രം മുന്നിക്കൊണ്ട് 1 മണിക്കൂർ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ പ്രഭാഷകൻ തീരുമാനിക്കുന്ന അത്രയും സമയം ഒരു ക്വാളിറ്റി ടൈം ഇവിടെ സ്പെൻഡ് ചെയ്യുക എന്നതാണ് ഈ പ്രഭാഷണത്തിൻ്റെ ഫോർമാറ്റ്. TKയെക്കുറിച്ച് ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു. ശ്രീ TM കൃഷ്ണ, അദ്ദേഹം സംഗീതത്തിൻ്റെ ലോകത്തിൽ അതുല്യ പ്രതിഭയാണ്. അതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ സാമൂഹിക വിഷയങ്ങളിലും അദ്ദേഹം ഏറെ താല്പര്യമെടുക്കുകയും സംസാരിക്കുകയും ചിലപ്പോൾ നിശബ്ദനായും. അദ്ദേഹം സ്വയം വിശേഷിപ്പിക്കുന്നതാണ് സ്പീക്സ് ആൻഡ് സംടൈംസ് സൈലൻറ്റ് എന്നാണ് അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ ടാഗ് ലൈൻ. ചെയ്യുന്ന വ്യക്തിയാണ്. അദ്ദേഹത്തെക്കുറിച്ച് ഞാൻ അധികം പറയുന്നില്ല. ഇത്രയും പറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ട് ഇത് ഫ്രണ്ട്സ് ഓഫ് TKയുടെ ഈ ഓർമ്മയ്ക്കായി അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് ഒരു ചെറിയ മൊമെൻ്റോ സമ്മാനിക്കാൻ ഞാൻ ലക്ഷ്മി പ്രേംനസീറിനെ ക്ഷണിക്കുന്നു. ഇനി ഞാൻ ഇവിടുന്ന് വിടവാങ്ങിയാണ് ശ്രീകൃഷ്ണയ്ക്ക് ഈ റോസ്റ്റർ ഒഴിഞ്ഞു കൊടുക്കുന്നു. നന്ദി.
Namaskaram and good evening. I'd like to first say that for a person from Chennai, these rains are unbelievably beautiful. We see this very rare, so first I have to thank Kochi for gifting me this. The subject of today's, shall we say, conversation rather than speech or talk is about the artist and the citizen, and is to explore both these roles, both these people, kind of people if you want to call them, and wonder how they are related. Wonder to an extent how each maybe can learn from the other, and maybe can also unlearn from the other. I think both are important thoughts. So first I want to say, when I say artist, I'm not saying the artist is not a citizen. Because people may wonder when I say artist is not a citizen. But I'm separating it specifically because there are certain things that happen to both these roles. These are all roles that allows for easy separation, even excuses. And therefore I want to see whether these excuses are real, whether we are creating these excuses to be whoever we are, however we are, and find sanction for it. And try to break these excuses down and see if there's a way we can blur these two words. The actual idea of this conversation is, can we blur this? Can we completely negate the separation which I have created on the title? So let's hope that through the conversation we can get somewhere. We may not get nowhere, but let's hope we get somewhere. See, the word art is, I said this the last week also, the idea of art itself, in the way we perceive art, and the way we receive art, itself is problematic. And I say it's problematic because of what art does to us. Whether it is music, whether it's visual art, whether it is theatre, whether it is cinema, we naturally place art in a separate sphere. We naturally give it a pedestal. I think that is something we all need to accept. We unfortunately give art a pedestal. As an artist, I'm telling you it's unfortunate. And I'll tell you why it's unfortunate. So because we give it a pedestal, we actually know nothing about art. This is the truth. What we are actually receiving is a certain, what shall I say, almost donation that art gives us. Kind of a donation. And we are some receivers of that donation. So therefore, whether we listen to this, people say this is all rubbish, I listen to Carnatic music from when I'm 4. I don't care if you listen to Carnatic music even when you're in the womb. But if you actually see what is your relationship with it, you will find that actually the relationship is very contractual. You will notice that there is a problem in the relationship. And that is because of what art does. And we'll explore that also. So what comes to our mind if you say art? First, art brings very non-tactile, non-temporal feelings. A certain ecstasy. Things I can't describe. An overwhelming feeling. Some may call it divine. And I think people call it divine usually because they don't know what word to use for it. So usually the word divine is used for things that we don't know what to call. They may say divine, some may say spiritual, some may say, because something happened. I mean, art does something to me. So there is all these feelings that don't have a hold. I can't nail it and say this is what it is. And when I cannot nail it and say this is what it is, then I separate myself from it very automatically. I take it, but I still separate myself from it. Another problem is we use art in a very general term, as if it is one body. So art is just one whole creation. But art is not like that. Art is very complicatedly divided. All art are not the same. So let me question that. Is the intention of every art form the same? That is something we should think about. We consume different kinds of art, but is the intention of every art form the same? Is the intention of a Carnatic musician the same as the intention of a film song in a movie? Is the intention of a sculpture in a temple the same as the intention of, say, devotional music or Nama Sankirtan or gospel or Qawwali? Or are they all separated? I can separate art in many ways. The simplest way to separate art is through medium. Through medium of sound, through medium of light, through medium of material. So you can separate art in this very physical sense. We can also separate art culturally, in terms of religion, in terms of ethnicity, in terms of caste, in terms of gender. We can separate art. I'm not going to the complications of that, I'm just giving you separations. We can also separate it by creating words. And this is something I like to deconstruct whenever I discuss this subject. Is these two words we have constructed called classical and folk. In my opinion, both those words are anything but more damaging to art. Because the word classical has no aesthetic meaning. Aesthetically, is there any meaning to the word classical? When I say classical, does it make any aesthetic sense? Actually, it does not. If you're willing to probe it deeply and wonder. The word folk is also a problem. Because the folk, in a way, in our minds, drops the quality within quotes of the music. Some way classical assumes higher quality, greater sophistication, more rigor, more practice, more difficult. Somebody asked me this morning, but don't you think it is an evolution? Don't you think that the way the person plays a drum in a folk form and compare it to a panchavadyam, don't you think it's an evolution? This is primarily the problem of the way we look at these two words. So this is also a problem of the way we have separated art. Then there is the question of intention. And this is what I'd like to pursue a bit more than the other divisions. Art is a very conscious creation of the human being. I want to state that art is not a natural happening. Art is a very conscious happening. It's a willed decision of humanity to create art. But humanity and the human mind is so beautiful that it also figures that the way art can move humanity is diverse. There are different reasons why you receive different forms. And I think that is inbuilt in what you could call the inner soul or the inner intention of every art form. So let's take a few art forms. I spoke about Qawwali, Gospel, Nama Sankirtan. The intention is very clear. The intention is the Lord's name should resonate in everybody seated here. You should feel the bhakti, you should feel the want of the divine when I sing with my troupe. So the incredible, beautiful thing here is it's not just some abstract idea. It's a very, very, very beautifully functional, technical concept. So what does the art form do? The art form designs itself in a fashion that this will happen. So if you listen to any gospel or Qawwali, you will have repetitive lines. You will have the possibility of you singing along. And those lines usually chosen for singing along will generally embed the word of the god or the goddess or the Lord in it. So the design of the art form, this is a very aesthetic thing. A design of the art form, make sure that the aesthetic experience you get is the intention of the art form. This is a willed human act. It is not by accident. So this is true of all devotional religious music. Then you take cinema music. Now that's a very, very fascinating being, if I can call it that. Cinema music is there because cinema exists. If cinema was not there, there will be no cinema music. Even in this country, there will be no cinema music. But what does cinema music do? amazing aspect about film music is that it doesn't have one permanent structure or form, because its form is entirely dependent on storytelling, on context, on technology, on the storyteller, and on the situation in which it is going to be played. Which is why cinema music will always change. It will always change, by the way. It will always take from many things. It will always be a body that you could call inclusive of every sound that is possible. The question is the sound in context with the story that is being told and the context of what is being told? That's all determinism. In this, I'm not including bad music directors, because they may create songs many times that have no sense of being there. So therefore, don't include that in my conversation. I presume that we're talking about music directors who have an idea of what they are doing when they're making music. You may argue with me and say, no, I don't agree with you. I listen to cinema music just on the radio. It has nothing to do with the film. It's still beautiful. So the question here is not whether you find something pretty to your ear. That's not the question. And that I'm not going to argue with anybody. You are most welcome to find something pretty, not pretty. The question is, why was it created? The question is, why was it created? How was it created? What was the method used? And there, cinema is the baseline. And then you come to an art form like Carnatic music, or jazz, or Hindustani music, whatever. In Carnatic music, things get a little more complicated, because a lot of the lyrics that we sing are religious. So it's very easy to think that we are also singing religious music. That's a different discussion. But what is this Carnatic musician doing? What did the great musicians do? What are they doing when you're on stage sharing something? And here, as far as these forms go, what I'd like to say is they use material, musical material in the case of this, like an abstract artist in painting. They use musical material, and for Carnatic music, I'll break it down to three aspects: tala / laya, raga, and text. And I use the word text and not sahitya because there is text that may not have any meaning. I like to call it vak, which vak, tala, laya, and raga. This triangle is all that the music is about. And all the musician is doing right through every moment of creating music is constantly manipulating these three elements. Depending on the composition, the weight of each element will change. Depending on the improvisation, the method of this element will change. Therefore, you are always playing with these three elements to do what? To abstract from our living experience of what life is. So what we are doing is only abstracting human life experience. All this sounds very beautiful. But then, let's problematize this a bit. We spoke about art, I spoke about intention, I gave this huge thing about abstraction, fine, all that's good. But who's doing this art? A human being is doing this art. Now the human being is not living in some isolated space. He's not living in any isolated space beyond the context of his or her birth, the context of the politics around their time, the context of religious beliefs, context of social beliefs, of all these things, right? Now this artist is the one who is supposed to be creating all this for you. And here is where lies a problem. Is the artist truly able to do all these things? Is the question. Or are we so habituated in something that we self-generate these experiences? And this is a very difficult thing to prove or disprove, by the way. You can only introspect for yourself. I can't give you data to say, no, you are the one yourself creating it. But this is an important question. Let me tell you from my own field. It's an easy place for me to start. So, I know how to sing a Carnatic concert. I was trained very well by great teachers. I knew how to perform for this audience seated here. I know all the mechanisms. I also know the end product of what I want to do for you. Now, the moment I say I already know the end product, then what am I delivering? I become a supply chain. So, the end product has been determined by all of us collectively, not just me, but all of us. We all determined the end product. In the sense, let's not talk about all the superficial things of one concept being fast, slow, these ragas we're seeing. All these are very top layer things, slightly more deeper. So we all in a way are already have determined what the experience of this evening should be for us to believe that art has been created. Now, once this gets established, then many things happen. I know what I have to do on stage, how I have to do on stage, what button to press when, which button not to press, in order to see that the collective end product is achieved. Now, if this is the case, then what am I actually sharing? What am I actually not going to share? What is this transaction? It's actually a transaction. Let's add another twist to it. Now, all the people coming into this space already know how to come here. They already know they are insiders. They belong to this space. They are just like me. All of us are the same kind of people. It's like, very honestly, it's like all left parties having meetings for left members. It's exactly like that. There's no point. No, they talk to themselves and they feel very happy about themselves. No, nothing is achieved by it. But they feel very happy. So when I went for a couple of meetings, it was like, there's no point in all of you talking to each other. I mean, what is the point? So it's exactly, Carnatic music is no different, very similar also. So they all talk to each other, we sing to each other, we're the same kind of people, we say very good, sabash, bale, everything's excellent. And we pat ourselves in the back like, wow, this music is great. But what are we doing? We are basically saying we are wonderful people. We are basically saying we are aesthetically very evolved. We are basically saying that the people outside really don't know them, they're not good enough for this place. If they want to come in, there are certain rules and regulations that we have laid out for which they have to understand and come in. So we are saying all this by just coming in this space, occupying and just having this transaction called music. And then I spoke about intention 5 minutes ago. You can automatically see that there is a problem here. There is something that you have to think about at least. Okay? So the artist is here giving this to you. Now, I go to 100 places like this, 1,000 places like this. So after a point, okay, I become a famous artist or a great artist or whatever tags you want to add to it. So I keep going to these kind of clusters, you could even call it clubs. And by the way, I want to say this is not only true of Carnatic music, it's true of all art forms. I am using Carnatic music as my foundational point of reference, but it's true of all our art forms that they all remain in different clubs. There are other issues of identity which we will come to. So I go to 100 places like this, not in Chennai, not in Kochi, not in Trivandrum. I go up to San Francisco, if I go even to Timbuktu, it's the same club only. Nothing changes. So, and then this I believe is my interaction with society. This I believe is the interaction with society. But I am not having any interaction with society. This is no interaction with society. This is like going to a shop to buy toothpaste. You all come to buy toothpaste and I am Colgate. And I am powerful enough to make sure that you will keep buying Colgate. Right? So this goes on and on and on and on and on. And therefore, in a way, I am affiliated. There's an affiliation that happens between us to one dogma, which in this case could be called Carnatic music. And the moment I say dogma, it means that Within it, there are 150 conditions that have been placed. Why have been placed? Because all of us have to surrender our intellect to those things. Only if we surrender ourselves to all those things can we be members. So, this beautiful thing called art that should change people. This wonderful thing that has so many intentions. I forgot, there's also, of course, political music, directly political music and theatre. I didn't mention it, but that also exists, of course. All this. But then, what is happening here? Is the art and the artist truly participating in a discourse? Are we truly participating in a conversation? And my answer to this will be no, we are not. We are participating in a transaction. We are participating in constantly reaffirming something that we love to reaffirm. By the way, let me say this, reaffirming is a beautiful experience. Okay? I love it. I love it that I go to this audience and I know exactly what to do to feel wonderful about myself. Of course, we all love it. And all of you love it, that you can go to a concert and reaffirm through the concert who you are. So in this, there is a serious lacuna of identity. There's a lacuna of the idea of participating in a society. And when I say participating in a society, I'm using society as an elastic band, as a kind of a larger idea. And for me, society is also beyond human beings. It's all, everything that goes around is also society, because the space also contextualizes human beings. The trees contextualize us, the water does, everything. So this whole idea. At the same time, musicians say I was standing in the beach and suddenly I was inspired and I sang a song. So all these, these are all multiple signals coming from everywhere. This complicated being called human being is engaging in something, but it's still not able to engage with something. So it's a fascinating dichotomy, and I say this dichotomy because this is real even for me. And I'm not saying there's a solution to it. It is a fascinating problem. So what am I doing? And I think this is the question that finally led me to do a lot of things that I did and I continue doing. What am I doing? What am I actually giving all of you? And what are you going back taking? So, then I have to ask the question, okay, I've been so pessimistic in the last 10 minutes. I basically said art is useless because artists are all these kind of people, and you audience are also useless because you also love what we are doing. Basically, I said all of us are a bunch of jokers. But that's very pessimistic. No, there has to be something. And this then pushes the question, is there really something in art? In spite of the human limitations of the artist and the audience and the spectator and the viewer, in spite of all this, is there something in art? Is there truly something that art can do? Does it? And I think that's a fascinating question to explore. So, as a musician, this part is always difficult to articulate, so I may stop and stammer, so just bear with me. You sing concerts. Why you sing at home, you sing in your bathroom, it doesn't matter where you sing. You sing. And then there is some time in that music, just some time, that something happens. Something's going on. And how can I describe it in terms of my condition when that is happening? That's the best way for me to talk about it. In a very odd way, me who is actually singing, my vocal cords are producing that sound, suddenly become detached from that sound. In a very odd way. It kind of detaches from me, and in that detachment there is a kind of clarity that emerges, kind of it's like seeing a line of music in ultra slow motion, and it's absolutely clear. The same thing happens sometimes when you stand in front of a painting. Could happen in a theatre, but anyway. And what else is going on there? Suddenly, we are not having a transaction. We are all sharing in that experience. So if I was going to describe it like this, I'd say art is hanging over our heads and we're all looking at it and saying, my goodness. In which suddenly I have disappeared. In which suddenly you don't care whether it's TM Krishna singing or somebody called Raman singing or anybody else singing. It doesn't matter to you. I think we all know this experience. We all know this experience. This happens sometimes when you are just looking at a sculpture in a temple. And then it doesn't matter whether you are in a temple. It doesn't matter whether you believe in God or not. It doesn't matter whether you're Hindu, Muslim, Christian, whatever. But we are all just caught with that piece of creation, which is a human creation. So this happens. And then that makes me reflect suddenly and say, okay, is this also a fraud? Am I also creating this? Because human brain is capable of creating multiple layers of experiences for us to reaffirm so many things. And somehow I'm convinced, I'll tell you why I'm convinced, but to some extent I'll try to explain that this is not a fraud. Because there's one thing one quality at that moment which tells me is a quality that I don't like. And that quality is to be vulnerable. No human being really likes to be vulnerable. And I use vulnerability in a slightly more open sense, not in the sense of an oppression and vulnerability, not in that sense. And I tell you, when those phases of art happens, I'm extremely vulnerable. As a musician, I can tell you I'm extremely vulnerable. Why am I vulnerable? I'm vulnerable because I don't have control over that experience. Normally, I have control over every experience that is being given. When I sing 5 phrases in this music, I know exactly what experience I'm giving you. If I feel that experience I want to give you is not happening, I know what to throw in to get you back. I know so in a way you're designing, it's a design, right? In a way I designed this. But here, I'm unable to design. I'm unable to control that happening. But I am the one who also was participating in it. So to some extent I can say there is something true in it because I'm in a position of great vulnerability. We are all in a position of vulnerability. So there is something that wonderful art can do. Wonderful music, theatre can do. But I like to create buts and questions to every statement. So get another but for this. Okay, if this is really true, then shouldn't all artists be such wonderful human beings? I mean, true artists. Sir, I can help you put it in silent if you want. But that is also not true. Because like I described before, we are human beings, we are normal people. So after that wonderful experience that we all have, you may cry during that experience, you may go back not knowing what to say, you want total silence, all this happens, walk out, I'll take my car, start the engine, and I'll abuse the guy next to me for parking badly. Without even thinking about the context. It happens, both are happening. So how does this happen? Why? Fundamentally, an art experience, I like to call this art experience, is something that even the artist wants to run away from. And the artist wants to run away from because we are human beings who love power and control like everybody else. We like power, control and ability to be in command. And the art experience kind of completely disintegrates that possibility. So therefore, after all that, I go back to being in that bubble and go back to delivering the same thing. I go back to again functioning like a mechanism by which I reaffirm who I am and I reaffirm who you are. But can this change? When I ask this question, can this change, because it comes from the fundamental point of how is the artist participating in society? You could say, and some people may also believe, no, just the creation of that art experience is the artist's participation. Many have told me, Mr. Krishna, why do you write and speak? Please just sing. I hear it almost every other day. Who's asking you to write and speak and do all these things? Just open your mouth, sing. That's enough. And there may be people who believe, no, that is enough. Whoever written that art experience is happening, and that is it. But there's a little fraud in that. And the fraud is, I know I'm using slightly strong words, but it's always better to push the word to its strength, because if it bothers somebody, I love it. Because then you will also think about it and disagree with me, but you'll think about it. So let's use the strong word fraud itself. It's a bit of a fraud, because what I'm saying is, yeah, that art experience is something very, very important to all of us. But I will continuously make sure that on the larger perspective, we remain one unit. Which means I will not question what I'm doing, how I'm doing. I won't question the space in which we are doing. I won't question the homogeneity of who we are as experiencing that. I will keep that intact. And for me, if you're not going to challenge that, then there are two issues. One, that art experience is a waste of time, in my opinion. Two, the larger question is, how is art really participating, or the artist really participating in the idea of citizenry and society and politics? And this is where I think it is very important. This is another thing we say, art, another thing we always say, art, people can be brought together by art. Everybody says this. They do a festival of 5 different art forms in 3 evenings and say, oh, we brought many people. No, rubbish. Nothing will change by those 2 evenings. Absolutely nothing will change. Because you're just arranging 5 performances in an evening and going back. That person will go to that performance and receive that thing that they already know they would receive and go back home. And you're not going to really bring. So, when we use these terms, these kind of statements that art changes society, we have to be a little careful. Art can, and the artist can. But for that to happen, there has to be, again, a willed conscious disruption. A willed conscious disruption, intervention, inversion of all these problems that we face as a, shall we call this, a cluster. And this is connected to the outer world immensely. Why? It's connected because by designing ourselves and occupying a certain space in a certain manner, the community of all of us are passing a lot of judgments on everything that exists outside also. So the conversation is very complicated. It has to be a two-way conversation. It has to be multi-directional. So in what way? Let me take my own example of little things that I engage with. The challenges that have to be thrown have to be internal and external. Cell phone is quite a thing. And when I say internal, it starts from everything. I did one simple thing some years ago, is I changed the way we sat on stage. So usually in a Carnatic concert, many of you know, singer, violin, mridangam, ghatam, kanjira, ghatam. And I said sorry because there's hierarchy there, by the way. If you didn't know, if there's ghatam and kanjira, they can't just switch 2 back places. There is hierarchy. Kanjira will sit here and the ghatam will sit here. I hope I got that right, I get confused. So this is the whole where the stage is occupied. Now the very structure of this occupation determines a lot of things. It determines a power equation. Not just musical code, power equation. Determines control. Determines everything that is happening that we are going to be giving you. Right? Suppose I say I'm going to just break that open. See, the singer sitting in the center, for example. It's the most empowering position. A friend of mine, in fact, says, he actually believes that singers are the captain of the ship. He actually says it also. I believe that's a little silly, but that's his opinion. So therefore, if I just break this, when you say, what's the big deal? I'll tell you what happened personally. So I stopped sitting in the center. You don't know how difficult it was. I've sat in the center for all my life. Suddenly one day I said, okay, let's say disrupt that very simple organization and say, I move to one side. We sit in a C, almost like, shall we say, jazz quartet. We sit in a C. I move to kind of one side. The violinist sits here, the mridangam, the ghatam. Now, this does some very interesting things to everybody. First, what it does is the way we are participating in music immediately changes. First, there is no one hidden there. I can tell you the Ganjira Ghatam permanently feel that they are irrelevant to the concert. This is the truth. They are only relevant during Tanya Vartanam, then all of you can suddenly hear that somebody exists over there. And based on that, you will also say whether they are good or bad. That's even worse. And they are under the control of whom? They are under the control of the Mridangam artist. The violinist who is in the control of whom? Me. The Mridangam also is under control. I'm the captain. So everybody is under my control. But there are minor control operations that are happening over here. Now if I break it, first of all my control kind of diminished. Just actually the sheer moving from the center to the right changed the way I dealt with my own body. It took a while for me to handle it actually. It almost felt like I was not important, as important I was the last concert. So it changes the way I listen to the violinist. It changes the way the violinist listens to me. It changes the way the Ghatam feels or the Ganjira artist feels they must participate in the music. Now this what seems like a very visual, simple rearrangement leads to a very interesting disruption in the way art is being created. This is one little, I showed a very what could be considered superficial example, specifically because it is not. And what it does to you, you don't realize. You suddenly listen to all of us differently. That is something you don't realize. Suddenly you see interactions in a way you never saw before. Suddenly you see two people who are hierarchically here in an equal platform having a conversation, the Ghatam and the Mridangam. So in all this, there is a content disruption that is happening. The content of the music is being disrupted. It could be further disrupted, like which I have done with the concert format. That's of course there. But you can do other disruptions also. So I said, and I'm using my little examples because they're easy for me to explain from my own position. So I have said Carnatic music is very Brahminical and it needs addressing, it needs questioning, it needs some thought. So I started playing with the content, the compositions that are sung. So one of the compositions I actually stumbled upon was a composition on Allah, which was sung by Nagur Hanifa, who is a very famous politician of Tamil Nadu, but also a devotional singer. Reinterpreted it in the Carnatic, shall we say, style and brought it to the stage. It's very fascinating when suddenly in a concert, Allah appears right in between, flanked by Kamakshi and Rama on both sides. It's a very interesting experience. It's as interesting for me, by the way. It's as interesting for me because it does something to my head immediately because I'm never used to this. I'm fine with Allah being there, but suddenly Allah has landed up on my plate. And it does fascinating things to me. I perceive all these three, if I may call them, different characters. And what it does to the way content is being transferred. It also challenges us. you and me. It also challenges us to wonder why these contents cannot happen. Even if you dislike it, you still ask that question. So I can go on this possibilities. There are multiple possibilities that can happen. But there are also other important things that need to be looked at if the artist is participating. And the other thing is simple question of saying, why does somebody feel they can't enter this space? This is not illusionary, this is real. I was sitting in the 5-star hotel this morning giving an interview. And somehow around this a conversation happened. So I said, basically we are all sitting in a 5-star hotel. And saying the door is open, I didn't close the door. Why are you not coming? Isn't that this absolutely ridiculous way to frame ourselves? So the problem is, how does the community that holds this art transform it in the way it is experienced by the community itself? Challenge the community's ability to experience it. Make it difficult. Make it complicated to experience it. At the same time, realize that you need to walk out of the door and say this music is for everybody. How do we do that? One of the things is to change space. We forget that this context or the space or the site where an art form is performed defines most of things about the art form. So that is where the experiment where we do in a fishing village in Chennai becomes very interesting. Suddenly, Carnatic music is being presented in a fishing village on the sands of the beach. A fishing village which is stigmatized by most of society. And there are very complicated problems. So people from inside suspect the people from outside, people from outside think if you go there you'll get raped and you'll get murdered. And that all this side is very safe. Right? And then they will say how the fisher folk are making the beach horrible. They are, of course, in Chennai there are other problems also. They are making too much fish, so many people can't stand the smell. Therefore, they should move the place where this. These are actually things people told me. I am not making these things up. These are actually things people from the other side of the beach told me, that these fisher folk should not be selling fish because we can't handle the smell. It is their beach too. But they didn't have a problem with all the restaurants that have come up and are throwing bottles and plastics all around the place. That is no problem. No, this is I'm just saying the sharpness in the discourse. Then suddenly you are saying no, but there's going to be Carnatic music, there's going to be Parayatam, there's going to be Kooth, there's going to be different art forms in this space which is not associated with the idea of high art. What does it do to the experience of the person who comes in? Suddenly, all kinds of people are seated. Person sitting next to you may be a person that you would not want to have a conversation with in your life. But you are rubbing shoulders suddenly. Suddenly you are having some little chit chat. And you are listening to some musician sing or play or whatever. Okay. This is also a form of disruption. This is also a form by which the artist and the art suddenly looks beyond. And I'll tell you, it changes the music. From personal experience, I'll tell you. So I have sung on the beach many times. And it's always been a fascinating experience. Right on the beach, anybody is there. Somebody selling the balloon is there. Little boys who think that I'm singing the most horrible music are sitting there. And there are, of course, the regular audience who also wants to wonder, come beach lo bhi paate kachhe kega. You'll get free air, you'll get something to eat, and you'll also listen to TM Krishna's music. And all of us collectively meet there. And it's not easy to sing there. Simply because I'm not comfortable to be around people who I know may find my music horrible. It's very important to understand this. It's very important to understand this. I'm always surrounded by people who I know will like Carnatic music. Suddenly I know 10 people may say, I have to say, summa kathin. But there is beauty in that. That's incredible beauty in that. And that's something I realized only when I did it. Rejection is an incredibly beautiful experience. To be told that what you sing is awful to my ears. Very honestly, whether the person is saying it very honestly. person is not, this is not like a critic writing a review. No, that's anyway, that's a different thing. This is a person who really thinks that when you sing Kamboji is such a beautiful raga, it's so evolved, it's sophisticated, I've been brought up all my life told that this is epitome, and one day said, this is noise, man. This does something to you. I could very easily say, I could take one person, oh, person is an unevolved person, crass person who has no higher sensitivities. No. The person is very evolved, very sensitive, but sensitive in a different way. Sensitive to things that I will never be sensitive to. But the same thing happens to me. I go listen to some art form I've never heard before, and to me everything sounds like out of tune. And there are extremely sophisticated people sitting there who are in it completely. Completely in it. So it's very important that this is not about making people love everything. It's about having conversations with people. And by changing all this, you are having conversations with people. You are having conversations with people inside and people beyond this circle. And in that, we are all being affected. Another example is about a year ago or something. Of course, everybody knows Perumal Murugan, the very well-known poet and writer. So about a year and a half ago, we bumped into each other at some meeting in Madurai. And he met me, we just having a conversation, and then finally he gave me one cover like this and said, I want to give you this. And I said, what is this? He said, no, just have a look at it. So I opened, there were 44 verses, all written by him when he was in his period of silence. Magical, I mean, beautiful, absolute gorgeous poems. And he said, can you sing it? We really believe that is one of the most beautiful gifts I've ever received. And all those verses are actually appeals to Mahadurabhagan, the Lord, who's in Tiruchengodu. And I started singing those songs. The first time I sang that verse was interestingly in Coimbatore. And you must know that Coimbatore is hotbed of the Gounder community. Which community took the biggest issue with Perumal Murugan? And the concept was from the Gounder community sitting in the audience. And I happily sang his verse. Nobody knew who had written it. Right? So I finished singing, I forgot to announce, suddenly I realized I forgot to announce. So I suddenly very gently in the mic said, this verse is written by Perumal Murugan. Now immediately everybody wanted to know whether, everybody was whispers. They were wondering whether it's some Perumal Murugan of 14th century, they didn't know, 12th century, because his name was also like that. His name is kind of a very tricky name. Perumal Murugan has to be some antiquated person living, you know. So I stopped and said, no, it is the same Perumal Murugan. But this is a very interesting thing that happened. It happened, it was not like, honestly, it was not something I consciously decided that I will do it, but it's just something that happened, and when I was singing it, I realized what was going on. I'm like, oh my God, I hope I don't get killed today. So, but it's a very interesting thing that happens. So, you are in that act, by default, creating a conversation. Suddenly, Perumal Murugan has multiple things that happen. Perumal Murugan is a problematic figure to many of those people who are seated there. For whatever reasons. You know, what were reasons? Suddenly Perumal Murugan verse, which pays homage to Shiva, is presented in a Carnatic concert on stage. There are multiple contraindications that happen in this. So what happens to the idea of Perumal Murugan? It suddenly starts changing. Of course, the idea of TM Krishna also changes, but that's more important in this context. So these are also ways in which you're creating a conversation. But beyond all this, it's very important that this is not just about the music or the art form that the artist is inhabiting. What about other art forms? What about forms that are not on the top of the hierarchy? which don't have the privilege of being a 5-star hotel art form. What happens to them? Where does that conversation happen? How do I, as a Carnatic musician, begin that conversation with art forms like Tayyam or Parayattam or anything? How do I begin that conversation? And I'm using examples for this because they highlight it easier. Firstly, there's another learning that needs to be happened, and this is not about just artists. Is it possible for us, if you listen to or participate in one art form, to actually move into another art form and inhabit its aesthetic space? I'll reframe the question. Is it possible for us who are habituated, say you only listen to rock and roll, is it possible for you to debaggage yourself and suddenly inhabit the space Kathakali? Is it possible? And this is an important question because it's a societal question, not only an artistic question. It is a question which is very important for us to understand. It's very difficult to do, let me tell you that. It's very difficult for me to listen to any art form without me actually already being a Carnatic musician looking at that art form. So what am I looking at? Not at art form, only at myself. I'm not looking at that art form. I'm not participating in that art form. I'm not having a conversation with that art form. And this is very important, especially in the times that we live today. When I speak to a human being or any person of a different community, different religion, different caste, even different gender, do I actually have a conversation with that person, or I'm actually having a conversation with myself? And most of us, if you think deeply, you'll find you're having a conversation with yourself. So, my engagement with other art forms are a very important aspect of this conversation. So, as much as I say that we have to look at critically, if I may call it, use a computer term, debug this art form. We also have to critically look at how can we engage with other art forms, which means other people, which means other communities, which means other ideas. How do I go, how do I listen to another art form or receive the other art form? Because if I truly receive, I'll actually receive the culture, the people, their habits, their idea of what is aesthetic. And this is where the idea of beauty, which we use so freely and so easily, also comes into being. If beauty is just about what you like and you don't dislike and what I like and what you dislike, we have nothing to talk about. We'll argue about why you like it and why I like it or why I don't. But there is something else to beauty. To really understand beauty of any kind, not just artistically, beauty of human beings, beauty of nature, beauty of anything that exists, we should be able to take our habituated idea of beauty and throw it into the nearest dustbin before we enter the other space. Otherwise, we can never feel. And you know what's the word that for me is most beautiful, if there is true beauty, and the word is empathy. When there is a real experience of beauty, the experience is of empathy, where you actually are not feeling for somebody, you are that person. You are that person. And in a way, you are participating in a conversation with that person. And what is incredible, this will all wink back into a conversation of what you are. So art in a way needs, and the artist needs to actually actively engage in this for it to be truly participatory of a larger citizenry and larger society. Otherwise it is not. Otherwise it is only a little cluster. And if it does in these different ways, and I'm sure there are people here who find even more mechanisms to do it, and are already doing it. That's wonderful. But if it really happens, then art is really being shared. Then society in a way suddenly starts becoming a participant to the idea of the art experience. To me, only if this happens does that beautiful art experience have any meaning in our living. Otherwise it has no meaning. Absolutely no meaning. And underlying this whole incredible idea of art is something that we need to celebrate, and that's the idea of democracy. These actions I've described are democratic actions. I'm bringing in ideas that are not part of the artistic aesthetic discourse into this because they inhabit this discourse. The idea of democracy exactly is the ability to express, the ability to share, the ability to empathize, the ability to introspect, the ability to rediscover, and the ability to be open enough to the conflict of disagreement. And this is the essentiality of the idea of art. And this has to be at the soul of an artist. So art and the artist are not going to participate unless they take from that beautiful experience of art and transfer it to actual way of asking questions about their own self. Identity is a kind of a complex. Do I have a time limit on it? Okay. I'm sorry because I can kind of overextend it myself. The artist, sorry. Identity is another complex point. I can talk about identity from my privilege. I can say identity has to be stripped apart. It's an oppressive tool. Yeah. But there are different sides to identity. For a community of say artists or any community that is marginalized, identity becomes a very important source of energy and sustenance and the feeling of feeling important in a society that doesn't care. So how do I negotiate this? For me, identity, if you ask me from this, I have to break these notions of identity. But then if I go to an artist who's already from a community marginalized, how do I ask that artist to share without feeling that the identity is being lost or that it's being appropriated? Because appropriation happens very fast. How do I do it? How do we handle this inherent inequality and these different ideas of identity between these two sets of people? Ultimately, it's people. And there is no good answer for this. It's a very difficult, complicated conversation. There is no answer for it. So, there has to be a way by which so the idea of sharing suddenly also changes. Sharing with power, sharing when there is no power. Very, very, very difficult. So when we talk about these things, we are also discussing many of these complicated. So ultimately we are discussing societal ideas. We are not discussing artistic ideas. And unless art inhabits societal ideas, it's not anything. And I'll move to Susan, just say one thing before that and say, in a way, art must imbue this amount of self-critique, this amount of empathetic. And inherently, if we, sharing is so beautiful. Sharing happens only when there's no giver and taker. The moment there's a giver and taker, there's no sharing. We are not sharing. Sharing happens when all of us, irrespective of whose hand went out and whose hand came, both the parties or all the parties involved are all celebrating the beauty of community. The very fact that we are together, and in that whatever passes in between is sharing, and there's no judgment on that. And art has to be shared. And inherent to that is the idea, I believe, that art is socialistic in its spirit. Art is socialistic in its spirit. If it is not socialistic in its spirit, then it becomes more a transaction than anything else. What about the citizen? Where does the citizen come? Or the non-artist citizen, let's qualify the person who's not a painter, who's not a musician, who goes in an IT company, who's a lawyer, who's a judge. Where do they participate in the idea of art? Other than being say, audiences for a concert. First, I'm curious with the fundamental question is, are we all born citizens? And I'm using citizen as an idea rather than a definition by a constitution or by some law book. If I am born in this country, if I hold the passport of this country, and if I unfortunately also get the Aadhaar card, I don't have the Aadhaar card by the way, then do I immediately become a citizen? Or is there something else inherent that qualities that you need to learn in a way that actually makes you a citizen of a country or whatever? And I think there is. Our basic problem is the passport doesn't define a citizen. And I use citizen as somebody who's participating in the process of citizenry, in the process of community and politics and society. So citizen has rights, has responsibility and privileges. All these three things a citizen has. But the citizen has to be an active being. Just like the artist has to be an active being, the citizen too needs to be an active being. In whatever sense, in whatever spectrum, in whatever area, whatever. So, when you are a participating citizen, when you are a person who is living in community in places, what, again, this is in the context of, more in the context of democracy here, of course, what are the things that, qualities that you look at in the citizen, which I can, in a way, wing back to the idea of the artist. And I think in Indian context, the word secular is very important. I think it's extremely important because in Indian context, it's far more nuanced than most other parts of the world. What does it mean to be secular? And I'm talking about engaging with that idea secular. That doesn't mean you have to articulate it in a bhashan. That means you inhabit it. There are many people in this country who understand secular, the idea of secular far better than most of us sitting in this room. Because they've engaged with it and it's part of the being. They don't understand the conflict that some people are creating. Now, the secular has many meanings, of course. It has a meaning with relation to state and religions, an equidistance from all states, a certain equality, a non-interference of religious beliefs in state policy, education, etc., etc., etc. But the secular has another interesting meaning to it or source to it, and that it is present, as in present today, and it's worldly. And I think these are very interesting ideas. When it's worldly, it specifically means that it is not otherworldly. That is, it's not something about something mystical or something unexplainable. It's about the world, which means it's about community, it's about society, it's about sociopolitics, and it's about today. So the secular is not an idea of history or an idea of the past. It is about engaging with the present and with the idea of what it means to live in a context of multiple religions in the present, in a worldly sense. So the religion itself becomes a worldly being. So the idea of religion itself becomes a worldly being. And this itself is a fascinating discourse. How does a person engage with this discourse? How does a citizen imbue this idea? And how is it even related to the idea of the artist who does a painting? Now, the citizen relates with this idea only if the citizen, in some consciousness, is engaging with the conflict that there is in this idea. Because again, this idea sounds very beautiful, but the fact of the matter, just like the artist, as human beings, we are again little clusters, conglomerates, membership clubs, etc., etc. So many times my mind tells me this is how I should be, but my emotions tell me no way. It's just not possible. So just like the artist has to challenge that dichotomy between that beautiful artistic experience and the artist that they are, the citizen has to challenge the idea of the beauty of being secular and being democratic, and with the fact that inherently we are not democratic, we are not secular. Democracy is actually work. Democracy is not natural state of human beings. Democracy requires a lot of effort, and the idea of the secular requires incredible amount of effort. Both need to be challenged. Both need to be intervened. And how can we intervene? How can we intervene? In our own little ways. We don't have to have grandiose plans for big communities. In our own little way. And in this, I want to say there's another big problem in today's world is that somehow secularism has somehow also become muddled with the idea of atheism and theism. Somehow it's all being muddled today in people's discourses. I don't think sometimes when they use these terms, I don't know in what context they're using it. So when they're saying secular, sometimes many times they'll talk about secular people, they're suddenly talking about people who don't believe in God. So this morning again, this person who spoke to me asked me, I have a question, do you believe in God? So I said, well, it's a difficult question to answer, but first tell me what you mean by it. He said, what do you mean? I said, look, if you ask me the question, you have an idea of God. You define that God to me, then I'll tell you whether I believe in that God or not. How can I answer this question? It's so vague, right? So similarly, we've also trapped itself in many of these things. I actually believe we're all floaters. We're all floaters. We believe, we don't believe, we may believe, we may believe, we may disbelieve, and suddenly we think that's the most important thing in life. We do all this because, by the way, because we do all this, we are interesting people. Otherwise, we are extremely boring. Imagine if you're just one block, you're such a boring, but we are not that. No human being, even the most pious, ritualistic human being, I can tell you, is a floater. Because there will be one night when he said, this God doesn't exist. I'm sure there will be one night. Similarly, the disbeliever, I'm telling you, one day stuck in the ocean when there is nobody else and a storm hitting, oh God, I hope somebody saves me. And actually, he may not say God, but in his head he's hoping there is some superpower that will come and... But that's beautiful. You know, that's so beautiful. I don't see a problem in both. Because I think I inhabit both. I do both. I have a habit in every time I write, to write Shri on top, Shri on top. So many times, this is a habit I've had from childhood. So many times I've stopped myself. I said, no. And then I said, no, why should I? Because I want to do it, I'll do it. So it doesn't matter. So the point here is, how does a citizen question these things? How does a citizen challenge these notions? Not only because it's being, in today's political context, these are very important things for us to ask. We have to ask these questions very strongly. Because we have been told about this idea of Indian culture, about this idea of this religion, we've been told a lot of things and we are consuming it. One of the important things that is being done, it is making sure that you don't have a mind space to challenge it. So if you don't have a mind space to challenge it, you will not challenge it. You will either go on one side or the other side. You choose. But the answer doesn't lie on both sides. It lies all over the place. So how can a citizen be actually operationally challenge this? Now, again I go to the same different context that I went with the artist, with the citizen. In content, in context and in space. And I'm going to talk about individual. Just like an artist has content-related questions that they creatively ask, the citizen also needs to ask content-related questions in terms of the citizen's own function, what is perceived as a citizen's role in that society that the citizen inhabits. The citizen is not just a productive tool of functioning and getting a salary. There is a position that you automatically believe that you have in your environment. Okay? Irrespective of a small person, big person, all this. So, in fact, you are more that than your occupation. So, in the street that you live in, or in the community that you live in, you have already positioned yourself, or society collectively has positioned yourself to be A, inhabiting this space, kind of symbolizing this, and that's what you occupy. Now that is the content that has been given, and your role then evolves around that. How does a person challenge that basic content of what I do, how I do, how do I change that? This can be very, very immersive for people who are marginalized. It becomes a very important tool. If somebody is, for example, if somebody is working in the leather industry, or let's even take something even worse that is actually in our news today. For example, manual scavenging, something that's horribly done even today. And I'd like to take Beswada Wilson's example. Beswada Wilson is, if those who don't know Beswada Wilson, he is an activist, a person who has called Safai Karmachari Andolan. It's an organization in which they have challenged the whole idea of manual scavenging. They were largely responsible for getting the act passed, and an activist who spread all over India, who's in fact helped so many lives, so many people's livelihood is changed. It's an incredible work. An incredible name, Raman Magsaysay Awadi of 2016. Beswada Wilson was born to the caste that defines manual scavenging. He goes to the government office for a job, and the officer tells him, "Oh, you will get your job." So he says, "What job?" No, you will get the job. I think he went to this brother, I don't know exactly. You will get the job that your family job. It was his family job according to the government officer. So he said, "I don't know what my family job is. What do you mean?" And because the job things are given in codes, no, they don't say your job is manual scavenging. It has some number in code. So he's like, "What is this?" So then his brother says, "You come." And then he says, "No, your family job is to be a manual scavenger." Now the fact that he's graduate, he's educated has not in any way influenced this whole discussion. Now he tears that order and throws it at the face of the government officer and walks away. In that act itself, Beswada Wilson has changed the idea of what he believes he is, what everybody believes he is, and what everybody believes the community is. By that one act. It's a very creative act. It's a beautifully creative act. So, you can change what you have. How do you change participants? How do I change the participants in my discourse? I will give you a very simple, I'll give you one example. People have been accused of being anti-Brahmin, anti-Hindu, many things, right? So I was having a talk with my friend a couple of days ago, and we were talking about rituals. They are very problematic. Let's not go into that part of it, okay? The rituals are very problematic, all that is there. So we were discussing rituals. We were actually having a conversation on rituals. And at some point of the conversation, I said, I don't believe in rituals. I believe rituals create a lot of issues. Whatever rituals, it could be Hindu rituals, it could be any religion's rituals. Rituals in themselves need to be handled with great care. But suppose the idea of ritual was democratized. Suppose every community, at least the powerful communities, okay, culturally powerful communities, let me specify, religiously and culturally powerful communities, say that this ritual can be shared by any human being. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. It doesn't matter what caste you are. You can exchange rituals. A Brahmin can do the Tevar ritual. A Tevar can do a Brahmin ritual. I can do a ritual which is done by people in the Dalit community. I can have Ghana. Ghana music is played during the death rituals, for example. I can have Ghana music played. If we can create a complexity like that, I know this is a very far-fetched, ridiculous idea, but it's okay, let's throw it out. Then ritual does something very creative. It may still have problems. There are nuances and there are multiple discussions to it, yes. But conceptually, you've changed the participants of the ritual. Suddenly the participants are different. then the ritual transforms. Suddenly this is a very creative act. It's an intervention that doesn't discard these ideas, but kind of rediscovers these ideas in a different fashion. What about the site, the space? Again, the space can be challenged. Where, for example, we live in all of us live in certain places. Where we go, where we come is already predetermined. Can the citizen then change the route? Can the citizen walk different streets? Can the citizen meet different people? Then what does it do to the citizen? The citizen's language will change. The citizen's accent will change. The citizen's friends will change. All this will change. And these are all acts of creativity, of introspection, of self-critique, which is using very similar tools to what I call artistic intervention. Not very different. It is just a different way. And I just want to bring one more idea before I wrap up. I think in all this, I would like to call this the spirit of art. As an artist, I'm using that term. And I think the spirit of art is that. The spirit of art lies in its ability to destroy itself and rediscover itself. To challenge itself and find beauty in the challenge. To create complexity in its own being and find clarity in it. This dichotomy, or not even dichotomy, these multiple reflections is where the spirit of art exists. And underlying this spirit is, like what I said, is the whole idea of empathy and meeting people. There are two more things. Again, something that the artist doesn't do. The artist really, I'll go back to the artist and come back. The artist doesn't really receive from life. We say I'm abstracting life, but I don't receive from life. I'm permanently judging life. I only receive from what I want. Again, can the artist and the non-artist citizen learn to receive? Learning, again, such a beautiful idea. Both are only acquiring. The acquire. And acquiring to me is kind of an act of there is a bit of violence associated to acquiring to me. But the idea of learning is very different. Does the artist learn? How does the artist learn? Can the citizen learn? And in art they will say that the great singer, the great thing about singing is not singing, it's listening. The great thing about painting is not the color, it's seeing. So are we listening? Are we seeing? Are we receiving? And this question is as applicable to the artist as it is applicable to the non-artist citizen. And there is one thing that art brings, which again the citizen can imbue. The citizen may get it from something else. I am using art. Is the idea of pause. The idea of pause. One of the biggest problems we face today is that we are unable to pause. We have created technologies that make sure we don't pause. Even I don't. If I go here, I'm already on my iPad checking something, doing something. And pause is fascinating. Pause is a space where nothing is happening but everything is happening. Nothing is happening because you can't say this is A, B, C, D happened. And because A, B, C, D did not happen, everything is happening. I take the same road to drop my children at school every day. No new road. Is the road the same every day? No. But do I know what is different for my every day? The same road, I take the same route, I go the same time. I do not look left, right. I don't know, I don't see the people on the road. I don't receive anything from those people. I don't pause to see their life. When I am unable to pause, what am I receiving in life? And art, when it really flowers, when that art experience happens, we all pause. We have no conscious thought. We have no feeling that I am enjoying this music. There's nothing. We are all in pause. That pause is also something the citizen can have by just taking a walk. That's all the citizen needs to do. Take a walk. Listen, receive, see. These are all as artistic, as humanitarian, as civilizational as possible. And finally, there is this idea of the activist. Either the activist is entirely maligned as being somebody who's permanently there to make sure, like people say, they do not want development. This is what Stanley. All kinds of development. Or you malign it. Or you over-celebrate the artist as being, almost becomes like Jesus Christ. The actors also feel sometimes they are that way. That's also a problem. That somehow they are going to just transform everything. By separating the artist into a category, we have actually destroyed citizenship. Because the idea of being active, engaging, being conscious, being participatory is fundamental to the idea of being a citizen. So instead of calling anybody an activist, I will say everybody has to be citizens. And exactly the same qualities have to be imbued by every artist. So I don't call somebody as being, I'm sometimes called artist activist, and sometimes, fine, that's what they want to do. But being an activist is being a conscious, aware human being. If you are not a conscious, aware human being, how can you be alive, living? If you are not a conscious, aware human being, how can you call yourself an artist? Art world is always surrounded by violence. The art is created sometimes among violence. And if art therefore does not directly challenge that problem, then art is not being created. Similarly, the citizen is surrounded by violence. And this violence, by the way, is as emanating from within us as it is around us. And if the citizen, if the person is not going to, even at a personal level, react, engage, challenge, and creatively, shall we say, question it, then how is that person a citizen? To me, the citizen and the artist in their truest sense are very much the same. They are very blurred. To me, the artist, just because they pick up a brush or can sing a tune, a person is not an artist. And let me also say this, that in school education, suddenly everybody thinks if they start art classes, everybody will become more sensitive. No way. That is the biggest misnomer we are throwing around. The question is, what is happening in that art class? That's the question. Just because I teach painting in Sarigama Padanisa, nothing will happen. So, the solution to this is not like one immediately had. No, the solution to this is far more complicated, far more nuanced. So, the art and the citizen, the artist and the citizen, to me, are not very different. And if both really need to be awakened in this country, and I really believe there needs to be an awakening in this country, then they have to rewire the way they see themselves. They have to become uncomfortable with what we are. not with what the other person is, with what we are. And then maybe the lines will blur more. And the more these lines blur, I think we will be a more fascinating society. Thank you very much.
യോഗം അവസാനിച്ചു. താങ്ക് യു.